It's Peter, and welcome to my channel. This is part 3 of the overview of Australian Beatles Discography LP version. Now, so we're going to pick up from 1967, and of course, 67 gave us the most innovative album at the time, probably arguably aside from Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, but Sgt. Pepper. Now, in Australia, Sgt. Pepper was issued with UK covers, which of course then had the individual mono and stereo sleeves, mono recordings, stereo recordings, but they also carried the UK catalogue number on the sleeve, but not on the record itself. Now, I should point out to you that the rear sleeve here is carrying the PMC and the PCS numbers. In Australia, there was the addition of PMCO for mono, PCSO for stereo. Of course, we had the gatefold, which everybody knows. Okay, hope you can see that well. This is original mono. It's that sleeve there. These came with the full sleeve and the cardboard cutout. As you can see, it's a bit foxed, a little bit torn. This is from 1967. This is the mono label. Black and yellow, of course. All Lennon McCartney plus George Harrison's Within You Without You, which I must say in recent years has been better appreciated than it was back in the day, I would think, which is great because it is a wonderful song. The mono version has some notable differences. Now, I hadn't heard a mono version for a long, at all. I grew up with the stereo version, which is, of course, that's the stereo cover. Stereo in the back. We don't need to see that. But I grew up with the stereo version. But the mono, I heard for the first time when I bought it in 2007. Now, and I was struck by the differences. The three differences that were notable were the speed of She's Leaving Home, the extra laughter, the different laughter at the end of Within You Without You, and also the scat vocal at the end of the Sgt. Pepper reprise. Now, interesting story with this one. This is the first original Beatle Australian pressing that I bought, and I bought this many years after I bought the orange label ones. I saw this in a shop down the road from my friend's house, and the shop had these pristine records. Right through every record in the shop was just pristine. I saw this one. I paid $30 for it, $30 for it, 30 Australian dollars. I couldn't resist it. It was just beautiful. It still is beautiful. Paid considerably more for the mono one, but that is a beautiful pressing. So yeah, I couldn't resist it. And actually, of course, as it does, it set me down a rabbit hole, didn't it? And I didn't have to, but I decided to buy all the originals. So, of course, that rabbit hole leads you into many different variations of records, as you discover along the way. First there was going to be the stereo, and then, okay, I'll get the monos as well. And then gold label, other things, it's a rabbit hole. You collectors know all about rabbit holes, don't you? Anyway, enough of that. So, down the track, when the monos were deleted, it was reissued with a single sleeve. No gatefold, no inserts. In fact, this is how I knew the album when I started buying the LPs. The first Sgt. Pepper I ever bought, which I don't actually have anymore because I replaced it, with an American pressing, which I then sold and then got another Australian pressing. Long story, with the gatefold. But anyway, it had a single sleeve, but I didn't know anything about the inserts and the the full sleeve or the inserts. Okay, so yeah, so this is a later pressing. This is 69, but the 69 pressing in stereo by now had the black and yellow label. I found this a few years back. Actually, when I bought my other turntable. So yeah, so by now we had stereo in black and yellow. One of only about 5 or 6, as I said last video, that carried this particular label in stereo. I'll just show you a couple of little little addendums as well. Now, there was a reissue of the album in 78, 79 in coloured vinyl. Now, as you can see, this is a matte pressing, a matte cover. The cover quality isn't actually that great compared to the original, which I'll grab it for you. Okay, I'm getting a bit fidgety here. Colours aren't great on the reissue, but this one is in coloured vinyl. There were 3 LPs issued in Australia in coloured vinyl. Red for Sgt. Pepper, white for White Album, of course, yellow for Yellow Submarine, and you'll see them along the way. They also carry this coloured vinyl label. It has a gatefold as well, but no inserts. And that record is right here. It's yes, 79, about 1980 maybe. It was actually the 3 of them issued at the same time. The black and silver label. So this probably dates at around 1980. Thereabouts. If anybody else knows better, you might be able to tell me. But there were 3 of these issued at the same time. It might look a bit orange on the screen. This is actually on the screen. This is actually red. Quite a deep red too. Okay. Actually, now that I think about it, it did come with insert. I'm wrong. It didn't come with the full sleeve, but it came with the insert. I'll just pull that out for that record. Okay. Now, following on from that, in America, Capitol decided to turn the Magical Mystery Tour EP into an album. Now, the album in question was that. Oh, this is an import. Okay, now the American album actually was a better idea. It combined the soundtrack to the film, to the TV show, I'll go to the booklet, but many of you have seen that. It combined it with the singles and B-sides from '67, being Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields, We Need to Love, Baby You're a Rich Man, and Hello Goodbye. I'm the Walrus with the B-side of Hello Goodbye was already on the A side of that. What was confusing for Australians for American records is that this one is on an Apple label, and this is a 76 pressing. Now, I've learned much more since this came out why it was on an Apple label. It was confusing. I bought a whole lot of American LPs at the same time, all on Orange Capital. So why is that on Apple? I know why now. I can thank Bruce Price's books for those who explained it. But I won't go into that now. In Australia, we didn't see that LP until 1970 odd. I'll put my book here. It was around 1971. It came out February 1970, in fact. Came out actually after Abbey Road, but I'll show it now. This was the Magical Mystery Tour Australian pressing, issued through the EMI World Record Club. Now it's a single sleeve, just got one picture. Interesting, it's got these interesting little equalizer settings for your tone control, whatever. Okay, that's that. The label looks like this. This is the S label, and those notches you see around the rim are actually a strobe. I will learn later, and you can actually set your turntable to so that it that becomes a blur. There's a setting like on your stroboscope on your any direct drive turntables, and some built drive turntables have got them as well. I know my built drive mono has got one as well, which I thought was unusual. But that's the first pressing of that. I've got a couple of extra pressings of this thing. Yes, of course you do. You see, this one is a slightly later. Interestingly, when that came out in 1970, that had a Northern Songs logo. This one doesn't. So I'm guessing it was pressed in 69 but released in 70. So that's that one. And then a third variant of it has what became known as the trumpet label. I think people are familiar with that. Again, all world records. There's a name on there. It used to belong to a Salvatore Esposito. Salvatore, if you're watching, I have your record. If you're still around. That's the B side. That's side 2. Now, the American cover, it was issued locally in 79 with the American cover. But, sadly, no book. Just that. Australian pressings tended to be, I won't say cheap and nasty, but cheaper than the American variants. The examples, I've made you a video about the reissues, not the reissues, the post-breakup issues, rock and roll music, love songs, all those. And you'll see some differences between the American and the Australian, and the differences in quality. That's the label for Magical Mystery Tour. Now, by this time, it's 79, the stereo wording had been removed totally. Of course, it was assumed that all the records were stereo. Now, one notable thing about this record is that this, like the American one, had the 3 fake stereo tracks on side 2, being the last 3 tracks, Pendant Lane, Baby You're a Rich Man, All You Need Is Love. The only place up until the remaster in 2009, or the 2012 vinyl remaster that is, and also the CD version in 2009, the only place you'd find a true stereo would be the German, which I would love to have if I could find one. Okay. So I've skipped ahead. That was 1970, but we'll jump back to 68, and of course 68 gives us the White Album, the Beatles. The proper title of this album is The Beatles, commonly known as the White Album, or in this case, the White Album, the beige, the white, the off-white, cream, borrowing from the 12th Man there. This is, as you can see, it's quite worn. The monos, I believe, had a mono tag. One doesn't have it, but this has got a stereo cover. I think they only released one cover for it to keep them all the same. That's the, inside, as you can see. I only come across this album in 1973 when I started buying, 74 when I started buying the proper Beatle LPs. In fact, that and Sgt. Pepper were the first ones I bought with my own money. And I may have actually heard snippets of the album without even realising it along the way. I'll just show you the labels as well. Hang on one second. They came with inner bags. collect in a bag. This is the mono version. But I remember I had a neighbour living in Narrabeen, which is on the north side of Sydney, when I was 12, 13, it would have been 12 when the album came out. And I seem to recall hearing bits and pieces of this album without realising I was hearing bits and pieces of the album. I remember, back in the USSR, I remember Abla and One We Could Take Gently Weeps were issued as a 45. That's the spliced side. This is the mono version. That was issued as a 45 in Australia, and I believe 20 other territories as well. But the mono single at the time, you've seen those. The poster came to Australia. Again, I had no idea this was censored, and I'll show you something with that. I've actually written a book, and rather than open that up, you can see a comparison between the censored and the uncensored. This was Australia. This was EMI predicting our morals in 1968. Good old EMI. So it was yet interesting. I had the lyrics on the B side, on the flip side of the poster. Again, I'm not going to open that up. It's many of you would have already seen that. But it also came with these nice portraits: Ringo, George, Paul, and John. And that was side 3 of the mono. The Australian monos are very hard to get hold of. They can be expensive. I got very lucky with this one. I found this in a record fair, but I remember being at a auction back in the early 90s. My first marriage had broken up. Long story, don't worry about that. I went to a Beatles weekend thing. Time War Records here in Sydney was around at the time. They had just opened up in 88. So it was about 89, and I was hanging around there a lot. Went to a Beatles auction. They also set me on the road hole of buying Australian Beatles singles as well. Again, another story. I'll get down that hole another time. But I saw this album being auctioned, and I was horrified at the pricing. I think it went for 200 or 300 Australian dollars. There were two guys bidding on the thing, back and forward, back and forward. I could see one guy anguishing over whether he should bid more. Believe me, I know all about that anguish. Okay, as I've come to learn down the track, being a collector, by that time I had gone from being just a record buyer to a collector, and I became a bit more focused on what I was after. Thank you to Time War Records for doing that, helping me with that. This is the stereo version. And I was going to wear white gloves, but I couldn't find them. Let's try 1 or 2. Now, there are many mixed opinions of the album. It's been quite highly praised in recent years. I, of course, have the remixes of the albums, with the issue demos and everything. I don't subscribe to the view of reducing it down to a single album. It's the White Album, as Paul said. Shut up. But I couldn't imagine the album without Revolution 9. Without Piggies and Rocky Raccoon and Why Don't We Do It on the Road, all these little bits and pieces along the way. And Revolution 9, well, yeah, it's different. But it's part of the album, and I can't yeah, I couldn't imagine going from Cry Baby Cry straight to Long 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 without Revolution 9, and without Can You Take Me Back at the start of Revolution 9. I almost know the thing off by heart. You know, if you listen to it, you know what's coming next, if you've heard it often enough. Hands up those who agree. Leave your comments down below if you agree. Even if you don't agree. Doesn't matter. It's just, we're free to express our opinions. Now, one thing I forgot to mention on those covers was that, of course, the title was embossed. And also the numbers on mine, they had an A numbering on that. I don't know if you can see that number, but it's A31583. The other one was 35240. Okay. A stark contrast to the lavishness of Sgt. Pepper. Now, down the track, I mentioned white coloured vinyl. Interesting there also, that's the reissue, but without the catalog number on top. That's the 1980 reissue, 78 reissue, whatever it was. I should actually find out for sure when that was. I've got that written in my book here. I'm way out. 1987. It wasn't that at all. It was 1987. So I stand corrected on those. Okay, but anyway, the 87s. In 87 they had these coloured vinyl, and of course the White Album had the white vinyl, black and silver labels. Wording manufactured by EMI Group Australasia. And the wording has changed around a bit. That's that one. That's sides 3 and 4. This is sides 1 and 2. I'll show you side 1. Okay, apologise for the errors, you know. I'm doing these videos off the cuff, as I said I would. Also discovered another anomaly along the way. In New Zealand, and these come with Australian colours. In New Zealand, there were some leftover labels from George's All Things Must Pass, the original label. And there were some New Zealand pressings of the White Album with those labels. In fact, I believe there were a few a few other LPs issued with that label. Okay, so I'm going to end it with the White Album. So this is that. This is the side 3. Side 4. So yeah, they were leftover George Harrison All Things Must Pass labels. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here because we're pushing 23 minutes and I know these videos can get a bit long. I'm going to do a part 4 and we'll pick up with Yellow Submarine to the end. Okay, so I will say bid you adieu. Okay, and thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you like my videos, ring the bell for notifications, leave a comment. I welcome your feedback and anything you can teach me as well. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye bye.